For many people, the word curriculum invokes only the themes of curriculum design, implementation, evaluation, supervision, teacher training and education, textbook design, evaluation, technology, as well as certain elements of the extracurricular. However, this volume in my hand informs us that what some considered curriculum in its entirety was merely understanding curriculum as institutionalized text, and that there is so much more to curriculum than what is apparent at the onset. Now you see, curriculum is influenced by the real world, by history, by politics, life and death, and as such has a myriad of concepts and ideologies that must be considered. Feminism, race and gender issues, political scenarios, economics, post-structuralism, even phenomenologists all have a say and are considered in the curriculum of today. The scenario has changed dramatically from the early days of curriculum, when the main motives of professional activity were keeping order and organizing the field. So that has completely changed, and the field of curriculum underwent a shift in the late 1960s, early 1970s, when the field was no longer preoccupied with development, but rather with understanding of the field. First, let's talk about one of the influential theorists in the field, and a publication that was written at the start of the 20th century. John Dewey's The Child and the Curriculum, 1902, focuses on two divergent schools of thought vis-a-vis curriculum. There is the guidance and control school of thought versus the freedom and initiative school of thought. Now, the guidance and control school of thought asserts that a common core of knowledge had to be acquired by all students. The entire system revolved around accountability and standards, and the child was simply the immature vessel to be filled. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, the freedom and initiative school of thought emphasizes the child herself, her interests and her strengths. There was an increasing trend towards such thinking in the 1960s and the 1970s. However, the criticism of this school of thought was imminent chaos and anarchism. To quote John Dewey himself, nothing can be developed from nothing. Nothing but the crude can be developed out of the crude. And this is what surely happens when we throw a child back upon his achieved self as a finality and invite him to spin new truths of nature or of conduct out of that. Now, you see, most of us, I feel, will abide by one school of thought or another. Most will lie at some point along the spectrum. However, there are even those who look at the entire system of schooling as skeptical, as an assembly line in a factory creating products rather than individuals. I couldn't say it better myself, so here is a song, an excerpt from Pink Floyd. Listen to this.
Here we go. 'Cause we don't need no education. We don't need no thoughts controlled. No dark sarcasm in the classroom. Teacher, leave them kids alone. Hey, teacher, leave them kids alone. All in all, it's just another brick in the wall.
I feel that the song that you heard and saw just now has serious implications for curriculum at several levels. Baer in 1988 called attention to the communicative significance of the arts. While works of art can be regarded from a number of vantage points, it is their capacity to communicate a particular point of view a particular set of values or perspectives of the world that is most telling if we are to realize their social and ethical connotations. Beer said this in 1988. The arts have been underrepresented in curriculum, yet they have the ability to achieve that which can seldom be achieved by traditional forms of curriculum. Beer said that there should be an integration of aesthetics into social life, the rejuvenation of the aesthetic image so that its social, ethical and political importance become manifest. In the end, this process will necessitate and help evolve a revised educational and social order within which the arts, as perhaps the highest form of human achievement, can flourish. Today we are living in a postmodern world. There are certain conditions and attitudes that characterize the postmodern period. Television and electronic media dominate in representing the world, and there is an increasing shift from print to image culture. There has occurred an information explosion, and the introduction of new technologies support deconstructed notions of subject, time, and history. Pinar in 1974 said that the field of curriculum had forgotten the existing individual. In its preoccupation with the public and the visible with design, sequencing, implementation, evaluation, and in its preoccupation with the curricular materials, the curriculum field ignored the individual's experience of those materials. To further comprehend their roles in the educational process, we must take our eyes off them for a time and begin a lengthy, systematic search for our inner experience. Perhaps the emphasis on biographical experiences might help in that search. An important concept in understanding curriculum as an autobiographical or biographical text is creating spaces. This expression was used by Miller first. The process of creating an interpretative community in which lived experience can be discovered, expressed, and interpreted is precisely the creation of such a space, and it has profound implications, especially in feminist perspectives. John I. Goodlad asserted that schools mirror the surrounding society. Early curriculum theorists believed that the schools and curriculum had big roles to play in oppression and reform. Liston in 1986 explains the reproduction theory in the following words. Schools function to reproduce the class structure of the workplace. In keeping with Marxian theory as well, Bowles and Ginter said that the social relationships of education, that is the relationships between administrators and teachers, teachers and students, students and students, and even with students and their work, all replicate hierarchical divisions of labor. They went so far as to call schooling the educational production process. It is no wonder then that some will agree that we don't need no education and we really don't need no thought control. Apple in 1990 and Giroux in 1981 said that the ideas and culture associated with the dominant class, the social class in control of the material and symbolic wealth of society, were argued to be the ideas and content of schooling. So in 1981, the reproduction theory was given some opposition in form of the resistance theory. And for the first time, theorists began to view the theory of reproduction as contestable. Jackson noted that over the course of development of the field of curriculum, the definitions of curriculum also started to include the unwanted outcomes of schooling. What is that? The hidden curriculum, the unstudied curriculum, as well as the null curriculum. One wonders about the elements of curriculum that happen outside the classroom, but are still very much a part of schooling. In some school settings, for example, bullying, hazing, harassment is as much a part of schooling as maths or science. Are these also part of curriculum? This hazing, this bullying, do they warrant more attention? These are riveting questions, but let us segue instead to other lenses with just as important questions. Say, for example, the importance of politics, race, and international events in the curriculum. Harry Truman, Doris Day, Red China, Johnny Ray, South Pacific, Walter Winchell, Joe DiMaggio,
Joe McCartney, Richard Nixon, Studebaker television, North Korea, South Korea, Marilyn Monroe, Little Rock, Passanak, Meaty Mantle, Kerouac, Sputnik, chewing live bridge on the river Kwai, Lebanon, Charles de Gaulle, California baseball, stock weather, homicide, children of the little mind. We didn't start the fire, and it was always burning since the world's been turning. We didn't start the fire, no we didn't light it, but we'll try to fight it.
Certain words in that song, more than others, have implications in the discussion on curriculum. Billy Joel uses Little Rock in that song. The Little Rock Nine were a group of African American students enrolled in Little Rock Central High School in Arkansas in 1957. The ensuing Little Rock crisis, in which these students were initially prevented from entering the racially segregated school by Arkansas governor, were eventually allowed to attend after the intervention of the president at that time, which was Eisenhower. Race has played an important role in the discussion on curriculum and prompts theorists to ask many questions. How do different races perform in different school settings? Are certain races predisposed to academic achievement and others to athletic? How does one even define race in this age of multiculturalism and cultural plurality? Billy Joel also talks about Sputnik. Sputnik was the first artificial Earth satellite that the Soviet Union launched in 1957. The space race between the US and the former Soviet Union that started in 1957 and went on until the mid-70s had a huge impact on investing in education and pure research. Many curriculum changes that happened during the 1960s and 1970s were a direct consequence of the space race. Curriculum as political text requires volumes, not paragraphs. However, in the interest of time, I must trudge on. You see, towards the start of the 80s, there was an increasing focus on race, class, and gender. Aronowitz and Giroux in 1985 said that it was necessary to link emancipatory possibilities to critical forms of leadership by rethinking and restructuring the role of curriculum workers. In a word, curriculum scholars needed to be attuned to the concerns of feminists, people of color, unions, and even be aware of gendered labor as a way of curricular control. People must also appreciate how the textbook industry in fact, may perpetuate selective tradition. Today I feel that globally, schools and curriculum are becoming more and more standardized as there is a movement towards a single shared concept of contemporary society. Curricular differences between developed and developing countries are not as great as one might expect. Raymond in 1991 said that. I feel that one major reason for this is the exchange of information, which has become more possible today than ever before. The coming of the computer and its integration with schooling and curriculum has opened gateways to information regarding international affairs, the society, as well as the culture of other communities, as well as the policies and curricular developments across the globe. Today, the bilateral exchange of knowledge is seamless and it knows no bounds.
Here are some parting thoughts regarding the role of curriculum theorists and where the discourse is headed. Jackson, in 1992, when highlighting the role of curriculum specialists, said that they should be of direct help to the classroom teachers and school administrators, and that the work of these specialists should have clear relevance to curriculum improvement. Specialists must work closely with practitioners to bring to the fore scholarly disciplines and political perspectives that heretofore have been overlooked or largely ignored. Efforts to understand curriculum as alternatives to the conceptual, empirical, and quantitative approaches
that have dominated curriculum research for many decades spawns important curriculum scholarship, such as dialogue journals and autobiographical teacher research. Critics will call it too personal, with limited implications in the field, but I feel that it has arrived in a big way. Naomi Norquay says it best: the point of this work is not merely knowledge accumulation, it is using memories as a springboard for change. I wonder if the path of least resistance would be one in which the school's only concern would be to prepare all students for industry and the job market equally, normalizing and ironing out the bulges in the educational fabric, furnishing students with only analytical and scientific truths, and deliberately leaving out the rich histories, cultures, and traditions that make people who and what they are. Sherry Holmes describes critical pragmatism in 1988. Critical pragmatism results when a sense of crisis is brought to our choices, when it is accepted that our standards of beliefs, values, guiding texts, and discourses, practices themselves require evaluation and reappraisal. For such a pragmatism is not bounded by conservative, conventional mores, rather, it is radical, visionary, and utopian.